She stood alone in a military courtroom, surrounded by generals, admirals, and lawyers who had already decided her fate. She was accused of insubordination, of hiding her past, of being a problem that needed to be broken. What no one in that room knew was that her silence wasn't guilt. It was obedience to a secret so classified it officially didn't exist. As the accusations piled up, one number changed everything: 73. 73 confirmed kills from a single mission that never appeared in any record. When a forbidden code name was spoken out loud, cameras were shut off, officers were cleared from the room, and the hearing turned into a lockdown. Because years earlier in international waters, a ghost operation stopped a coordinated attack that would have killed over 4,000 sailors and ignited a global war. She pulled every trigger, walked out without a medal, without a name, without a voice, and was ordered never to speak of it again. This is not a story about glory or recognition. This is the story of what happens when the system forgets the people who protect it, and what happens when the truth can no longer stay buried.
A young Marine sits alone in a military courtroom, surrounded by senior officers who watch her like she does not belong. The general presiding over her hearing leans forward with a tight smile and asks a question meant to humiliate her in front of everyone. "What is your kill count?" The room goes silent, waiting for her to crack. But when she finally answers, her response does not just shock the room, it freezes it completely. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you enjoy stories of quiet strength and hidden sacrifice, consider subscribing, because what happens next will rewrite everything you think you know about respect, authority, and the warriors no one is allowed to remember. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead in a sealed room deep inside Naval Station Norfolk. The walls are navy gray, sterile and cold, designed to remind everyone who enters that this is a place of judgment. 3 cameras mounted in the corners record silently, red lights blinking in a steady rhythm. At the center of the room sits a single metal table, and behind it, alone, sits Staff Sergeant Riley Stone. Her uniform is flawless, her posture is upright but not stiff. Her hands rest flat on the surface of the table, fingers spread evenly. She does not fidget, she does not look around. Her face is calm, unreadable, like someone who has learned to disappear while remaining completely visible. Around her, arranged in a horseshoe formation, 23 senior officers fill the tiered seating: Navy admirals in crisp white uniforms, Marine colonels with rows of ribbons stretching across their chests. JAG lawyers flip through thick folders stamped with red classified markings. Some lean back in their chairs with arms crossed. Others whisper to each other, low voices drifting across the room like static. A few glance at Riley with expressions ranging from boredom to thinly veiled contempt. The room feels less like a hearing and more like a trap. At the head of the room, elevated behind an imposing oak bench, sits Lieutenant General Thomas Harrington. He is 58 years old, a Marine legend with 3 rows of ribbons and silver hair combed back in a style unchanged for decades. His face looks carved from stone, sharp angles and hard lines that seem incapable of softening. When he speaks, people listen. When he gives an order, people obey. He radiates authority like heat from a furnace, and right now that authority is aimed entirely at the woman sitting alone below him. The charges against Riley are vague: conduct unbecoming, insubordination, failure to follow operational protocol. The language is bureaucratic and shapeless, designed to mean everything and nothing at the same time. The proceeding has been underway for 40 minutes, yet Riley has only been asked procedural questions: name, rank, unit. She answers each in a flat, neutral tone that gives nothing away. Staff Sergeant Riley Stone, 3rd Marine Expeditionary Force, Forward Reconnaissance. Her voice is steady and controlled, like someone reading coordinates over a secure radio. Harrington flips through her file without looking at her.
The pages turn slowly and deliberately, each movement a performance for the room. He pauses on one page, his jaw tightening as he reads something that clearly irritates him. Then he snaps the folder shut, the sound echoing off the walls like a gavel strike. He does not look at her, only at the paper, only at the words that tell him everything he believes he needs to know. He leans forward, elbows on the bench, fingers steepled. His voice is calm, but edged with condescension. "Marine, your record is inconsistent. 3 commendations, 2 formal reprimands, multiple operational deployments, yet almost no mission reports attached to your file. How do you explain that?" The question hangs in the air, heavy and accusatory. Riley does not hesitate. "I do not, sir." Harrington's eyes narrow. "You do not?" "No, sir." The room shifts. Officers exchange looks. Someone coughs. The atmosphere thickens. Harrington stands slowly, letting the weight of his rank fill the space. He steps around the bench and descends the stairs, closing the distance between himself and the table where Riley sits. "You were deployed to the South China Sea in 2023. Care to elaborate?" "No, sir." "Persian Gulf 2024. "No, sir." He stops a few feet from her table, arms crossed, looming over her like a monument to judgment. "Do you believe silence makes you mysterious, Stone, or simply difficult?" Riley does not react. Her expression remains unchanged. Her hands stay flat on the table. She does not blink. Harrington begins to pace, his voice rising with every word. "You know what I think, Stone. I think you have been coasting, hiding behind classifications, using bureaucracy as armor so no one can question what you actually did during your deployments." He stops directly in front of her table, leaning down until his face is level with hers.
"I've seen Marines like you before. All mystique, no substance. You get one lucky assignment, ride it for years, and hope no one digs too deep." His words are daggers, sharp and deliberate, meant to cut. Several officers nod in agreement. One scribbles notes on a legal pad. Another leans over and whispers to his neighbor, who smirks. Riley's jaw tightens. It's subtle, almost invisible, but it's there, a flicker of tension beneath the calm exterior. Her knuckles press harder against the table. Her breathing slows, but she says nothing. Harrington straightens and turns to address the panel, his voice theatrical and confident. "You want to sit there in silence? Fine, but this panel will make its recommendation based on what I see. And what I see is someone who does not belong in the United States Marine Corps." The words land like a verdict. The room feels smaller, hotter. Riley's eyes remain fixed on a point just beyond Harrington's shoulder, staring at nothing while seeing everything. In the back row, nearly invisible among the sea of uniforms, sits a man who has been silent the entire hearing. Rear Admiral Daniel Cade, early 50s, salt and pepper beard, eyes like steel. He has not spoken once, has not moved. But now, as Harrington delivers his monologue, Cade shifts in his seat. He opens a thin folder in his lap, the kind reserved for information too sensitive to circulate freely. He reads. His expression changes, subtle but unmistakable. His jaw tightens. His hand grips the armrest. He closes the folder slowly, deliberately, and rests it on his lap. His eyes lock onto Riley, unblinking. Harrington calls for a recess, 15 minutes. The room empties in a rush of noise and motion. Officers gather in clusters outside, their voices drifting back through the open doorway. 3 years forward deployed and not a single after-action report? That is not classification. That is a cover-up. Harrington is right. She is hiding something. Or maybe she just crossed the wrong person. The whispers carry weight, each one another layer of judgment pressed onto Riley's shoulders. Inside the room, she sits alone. A junior officer brings her a cup of water and sets it on the table. She does not drink it, does not even acknowledge it. Her hands remain flat on the surface, but now they grip the edge. Her knuckles are white. Admiral Cade walks past her table slowly, his footsteps measured.
He does not stop or speak, but as he passes, he glances down at her hands. He sees the tension, the strain. He pauses for half a second, just long enough for the moment to register, then continues walking. The hearing resumes. Officers file back in, the noise settling into a low hum before fading into silence. Harrington returns to his bench, energized now, sensing weakness. He leans forward again, a predator closing in. Let's talk about your last deployment. You were attached to a Navy SEAL task unit as a liaison, is that correct? Yes, sir. And during that deployment, you stated you participated in direct action operations. I do not state anything, sir. But you were involved in combat engagements. The room leans forward. Every eye fixes on her. Yes, sir. Harrington's smirk widens. How many? Riley hesitates. I do not have an exact number, sir. A rough estimate? She does not answer. Harrington turns to the panel, his voice dripping with mockery. Come on, Marine. You're a forward reconnaissance operator. Surely you kept count. Still nothing. He turns back to her, planting both hands on the table, his face inches from hers. This is the problem. We have a Marine who claims to be a combat veteran but cannot or will not provide details. No mission reports, no verification, just silence. He straightens, letting the tension build. So let me ask you directly, Staff Sergeant Stone, since you seem to believe your record speaks for itself. He pauses. The room holds its breath. What's your kill count? The question lands like an explosion. The room goes completely still. It is not a real question. It is a taunt, a trap meant to humiliate. If she answers, she is arrogant. If she refuses, she is exposed. Officers watch, some with pity, others with anticipation. Admiral Cade leans forward in his chair, his eyes locked on Riley. She does not flinch or look away. She lifts her head slowly, meeting Harrington's eyes for the first time. Her voice is calm, precise, clinical. 73. If you have ever witnessed someone stand their ground when the entire world was against them, leave a comment below. And if you want to see how this moment changes everything, stay with us. The courtroom freezes. The number hangs in the air like smoke after a gunshot. 73. Officers stop moving, stop whispering, stop breathing. Harrington blinks, his expression shifting from smug certainty to open confusion. His mouth parts slightly, then closes. He was not expecting an answer, certainly not that one. What? His voice cracks just enough to be noticed. Riley does not repeat herself. She does not need to. Her tone remains steady and controlled, like someone reading coordinates over a radio. 73 confirmed kills, all from a single classified joint operation. The room shifts instantly. Several officers straighten in their seats. A colonel in the third row leans forward, his pen frozen mid-stroke above his notepad. A JAG attorney stops turning pages and stares at Riley with widened eyes. Harrington takes an involuntary step back, his hands dropping from the table as the color drains from his face like water from a cracked glass. He opens his mouth again, but no sound comes out. Riley fills the silence with 5 words that detonate the room. Codename Phantom Trident. The reaction is immediate. Admiral Cade rises abruptly, his chair scraping violently against the floor as the thin folder slips from his lap, papers scattering across the ground like shrapnel. His face shifts from composed to ashen in a heartbeat. "Stop the recording!" His voice slices through the room like steel. "Now!" A junior officer rushes toward the cameras, fumbling with switches as the red indicator lights blink off one by one, plunging the room into a different kind of silence, heavier, darker, the kind that precedes something catastrophic. Cade strides down the aisle between the rows of officers, his boots echoing loudly. "Clear the room! Everyone out except command-level personnel!" Harrington turns toward him, anger and confusion twisting his features. "Admiral, I am conducting a formal hearing and I have every right to—" Cade cuts him off mid-sentence, his voice low and controlled, but vibrating with restrained fury. "General, sit down and shut your mouth." The room erupts into motion. Officers exchange stunned looks as whispers ripple outward. Two JAG lawyers stand quickly, gathering papers with shaking hands. A Marine captain hesitates near the door, unsure whether to leave or stay. Cade points sharply at the exit. Out! Now! The doors open and close repeatedly as officers file out in shocked silence, several glancing back at Riley with expressions caught between confusion and sudden realization. Within 2 minutes, the room is empty, except for 8 people. Harrington remains standing near the front, smaller now without his audience. Cade stands in the center aisle, immovable as stone. Riley sits at the table, hands flat, breathing slow and steady. 5 other flag officers remain, all carrying enough rank to understand that what is about to be discussed exceeds their clearance, yet is too critical to ignore. Cade steps to the center of the room, his voice dropping to a tone more dangerous than shouting. Does anyone here besides me have cosmic top-secret clearance? Silence answers him. No hands rise, no voices respond. Cade nods once. Then what I am about to say never leaves this room. He turns to Riley, and for the first time since the hearing began, his expression softens slightly, just enough to convey respect. Phantom Trident was a Black Book maritime strike operation conducted in international waters near the Spratly Islands in August 2023. He begins to pace, hands clasped behind his back, his voice steady but weighted with gravity. It was unsanctioned by the Department of Defense, unacknowledged by the State Department, and classified at a level that officially does not exist. Harrington opens his mouth to speak, but Cade silences him with a single raised hand. You do not get to talk right now, General. You have done enough. The words land hard. Harrington's face reddens, but he remains silent. Cade continues, his voice building momentum as he reveals a story never meant to be spoken aloud. In the summer of 2023, naval intelligence intercepted communications indicating a coordinated attack against the USS Ronald Reagan Carrier Strike Group. The threat was imminent, 36 hours at most. He stops pacing and faces the remaining officers. The enemy had positioned a command vessel disguised as a fishing trawler in international waters. From that platform, they coordinated submarine movements, missile guidance systems, and electronic warfare operations, targeting not 1, but 3 carrier groups. A rear admiral near the back inhales sharply. Cade does not acknowledge it. We could not strike officially. That would have been an act of war. We could not wait for diplomacy. 4,000 sailors would have been dead within 48 hours. He walks closer to Harrington's bench, his boots echoing. So we sent ghosts. He turns toward Riley, and now his voice carries something more than authority, reverence. Staff Sergeant Riley Stone was embedded with SEAL Team 6 as the primary breacher and close quarters specialist. She was selected because she spent 18 months training with Israeli Special Operations units in urban shipboarding tactics. No one else possessed her skill set. No one else could do what needed to be done. Harrington stares at Riley now, truly seeing her for the first time, his expression caught between disbelief and quiet horror.
Cade does not stop. The insertion was executed at night in 12-foot swells from a submerged submarine. No air support, no backup, no extraction plan if everything went wrong. He pauses, letting the weight of those facts settle over the room. They boarded the vessel at 0300 hours. The engagement lasted 72 minutes. Staff Sergeant Stone was the sole trigger operator, moving through a hostile command center packed with enemy combatants. 73 confirmed kills, every single one necessary to neutralize the threat. By 0430, the command network was destroyed, the carrier groups were safe, and Phantom Trident was erased from existence. Cade reaches for Riley's file on Harrington's bench, lifting it like evidence before a jury. Every operator involved was debriefed under threat of court-martial. Their service was redacted. Their medals were filed under false citations. Their mission reports were destroyed.
He drops the file onto the table in front of Harrington with a heavy thud. Staff Sergeant Stone saved 4,000 American lives and prevented a world war, and she has been legally forbidden from speaking about it ever since. Harrington tries to respond, his voice weak and defensive. "I did not know." Cade steps closer, towering over him. "You did not know because you did not care. You saw a young Marine who would not bow, and you chose to break her." His voice hardens to steel. "Her record is inconsistent because it was sanitized. Her mission reports do not exist because they were burned. She does not talk about her service because she has been protecting this nation's secrets while you have been protecting your ego." The silence that follows is absolute. No one moves. No one breathes. Harrington has nothing left to say. His authority, his confidence, his entire presence collapses inward like a dying star. Cade turns away from him and faces Riley. "Staff Sergeant Stone." She stands instantly, movements sharp and precise. "Yes, sir." "You are dismissed. All charges dropped. You will be reassigned to Strategic Command under my direct authority, effective immediately." "Yes, sir." She delivers a crisp salute. Cade returns it with equal respect. Riley turns toward the door, and then something remarkable happens. Every officer in the room except Harrington stands, not because protocol requires it, not because rank demands it. They stand because respect commands it, the kind earned through blood and silence. Riley walks toward the exit, her footsteps echoing against polished floors. She does not look back. Through the glass of the courtroom, Harrington is visible, still seated, still broken, the man who sought her humiliation, now surrounded by the ruins of his own authority. If you have ever witnessed arrogance collapse in real time, share your story below. And if you want to see what happens to Riley next, stay with us. The corridor stretches long and empty. Riley's footsteps echo steadily with each measured step. The walls display framed photographs of naval history, battles won, ships commissioned, admirals decorated. She does not look at them. Her gaze stays forward, posture straight, breathing controlled. Behind her, through the glass, Harrington remains seated at the center of the room, hunched over the table where she once sat, hands pressed to his temples, shoulders trembling slightly. A man who once commanded absolute authority, now reduced to something small and fragile, never meant to carry such weight.
Riley pushes through the double doors at the end of the hallway and steps into open air. The sunlight feels harsh after the fluorescent chill of the courtroom. She pauses, letting her eyes adjust, letting her body remember what it feels like to exist without judgment pressing in from every side. A breeze moves through the trees lining the base perimeter. The air smells of salt and freshly cut grass. She inhales deeply, holds it, then releases it slowly. Her hands, tense for hours, finally loosen at her sides. A black sedan waits at the curb. Admiral Cade leans against it with his arms crossed, watching her approach. He does not speak at first, only nods once, a gesture of acknowledgement without expectation. Riley stops a few feet away. "Thank you, sir." Cade shakes his head slightly. "You do not owe me thanks. You never should have been in that room to begin with." He opens the rear door of the sedan. "Get in. We have work to do." She climbs into the back seat without hesitation. Cade takes the front passenger seat, and the driver pulls away smoothly, leaving Naval Station Norfolk behind. The drive is quiet. Riley watches the world slide past through tinted glass, strip malls, gas stations, identical housing developments. Normal life, untouched by classified missions and erased records. Cade does not turn around or ask questions. He allows the silence to exist, understanding that some moments require space rather than words. After 20 minutes, the sedan turns onto a tree-lined street and stops before a building Riley recognizes instantly, the Pentagon. Cade glances back at her. "Ready?" She nods. "Yes, sir."
They move through security together, past checkpoints and scanners, down hallways filled with personnel moving with purpose. Officers salute Cade as he passes. He returns each salute without breaking stride. Riley follows half a step behind, noticed but not questioned. They take an elevator down 2 levels. The doors open onto a corridor marked with restricted access warnings. Cade swipes his card at a reinforced door and it unlocks. Inside is a sleek conference room with a long, polished table and wall-mounted screens displaying classified data feeds. A dozen people are already seated, senior officers, civilian intelligence analysts, and a woman in a dark suit wearing a Department of Defense badge. They look up as Cade and Riley enter. No one stands. No one salutes. This is not that kind of room. Cade takes the seat at the head of the table and gestures to the chair beside him. Riley sits, posture controlled, expression neutral. Cade leans forward, addressing the group. Everyone here has been briefed on Phantom Trident. Staff Sergeant Riley Stone will be joining our joint task force effective immediately. Her expertise in maritime threat assessment and close quarters operations makes her an essential asset. A man in his 40s, balding, sharp-eyed, wearing Navy commander insignia, speaks. With respect, Admiral, her background is primarily field operations. Strategic command requires a different skill set. Cade does not hesitate. Her background includes executing the most classified maritime strike in modern naval warfare. If she can dismantle an enemy command network in 72 minutes under hostile conditions, I am confident she can manage threat assessments from behind a desk. The room goes quiet. The commander nods slowly, conceding the point. Cade continues. Our focus is identifying and disrupting emerging threats to carrier strike groups operating in contested waters. Intelligence suggests coordinated efforts to replicate the tactics used in 2023. Staff Sergeant Stone's first-hand experience makes her uniquely qualified to anticipate and counter them. He taps a control embedded in the table, and a map appears on the screen, maritime zones highlighted in red. Riley studies it closely, eyes moving across coordinates and markers. She listens, absorbs, processes. A woman with streaks of gray in her hair and a CIA badge leans forward. Your assessment, Staff Sergeant. Riley answers immediately. The patterns match pre-operational reconnaissance. They are testing response times, mapping patrol routes, identifying gaps. If another strike is planned, it will occur within 6 weeks. The woman raises an eyebrow. That is a narrow window. Your confidence level? Riley meets her gaze evenly. Very high. The tactics are the same, only the geography has changed. The woman nods and notes it on her tablet. Cade allows a small smile. Welcome to the team, Stone. The briefing continues for another hour. Riley contributes when needed, her insights sharp, precise, and measured. She does not over-explain or defend her conclusions. She simply delivers them, calm and professional, exactly as she always has. She simply presents facts and allows them to stand on their own. By the time the meeting adjourns, the skepticism that once filled the room has vanished. Officers collect their folders and exit in small clusters, several stopping to introduce themselves to Riley, to shake her hand, to acknowledge her not as an anomaly, but as a teammate. She accepts each gesture with quiet composure, her responses polite and restrained. When the room finally clears, Cade remains seated. Riley waits near the door. Cade looks up, studying her. You could have stopped him, you know. Shut Harrington down in the first 5 minutes and spared yourself the humiliation. Riley shakes her head slightly. I was ordered not to discuss Phantom Trident under any circumstances. Cade leans back. Even to protect yourself? She meets his gaze steadily. Especially then. A long silence follows. Cade searches her face for pride or resentment and finds neither, only calm resolve. That level of discipline is rare, he says quietly. Don't lose it. 1 week later, Riley walks into the same Pentagon briefing room, but this time she is not a visitor. She belongs there. The analysts and officers from the previous session are already seated, maps glowing on screens, intelligence reports spread across the table. As Riley enters, they rise, not from protocol or obligation, but because they have seen her work, read her assessments, watched her uncover threat patterns others missed. They stand because she earned it. Riley takes her seat, opens her laptop, and begins. The room settles into focused silence as data streams across displays and keyboards click softly. Someone asks about submarine activity near the Malacca Strait. Riley pulls up satellite imagery and walks them through her analysis, voice steady and precise. Another analyst asks about electronic warfare signatures. Riley cross-references signal intelligence and identifies a pattern consistent with known hostile tactics. The discussion flows easily now, her input seamlessly woven into the team's rhythm. No one questions her authority, no one doubts her place. Cade enters midway through the session, observing quietly from the back. He does not interrupt. Riley glances up briefly, acknowledges him with a slight nod, and returns to her screen. Cade allows himself a rare smile. This is where she belongs, not in a courtroom defending herself from empty accusations, not sitting silently while someone tries to break her, but here, doing the work that saves lives, the work few will ever know about, the work that defines her more than any medal ever could. When the briefing ends, officers gather their materials and leave. Riley remains, typing notes into her laptop. Cade approaches and stops beside her chair. "Settling in all right?" She looks up calmly. "Yes, sir." "Good." He hesitates, then adds, "For what it's worth, Harrington resigned last week, submitted his retirement papers, and left without a statement." Riley's expression does not change. She nods once and returns to her screen. Cade watches her a moment longer, then turns and leaves, the door closing softly behind him. Riley sits alone in the empty room, the glow of her laptop illuminating her face as her fingers move with practiced precision. Outside, the Pentagon hums with its endless cycle of meetings and decisions that shape the world. Inside this room, one woman works quietly, her past redacted, her service unseen, her sacrifice known only to a few who will never speak of it. The cameras blink red, recording nothing. The mission reports remain classified. The truth stays buried, but the work continues, and that is enough. Those who protect us most are often the ones we never see. The missions that save lives are the ones that never make headlines. And sometimes, the quietest voice in the room is the one that changed everything. If this story reminded you of someone whose sacrifice went unrecognized, honor them in the comments. And if you believe true strength does not need to be loud, consider subscribing, because the most powerful stories are the ones that stay with you long after they end.